Yeah, Jeremiah Holloway with Inside Carolina. Christo, of course, I'm sure you've seen it, lots have been swirling around as far as, state of the team chemistry, unity, things like that. From your perspective as a player, how would you kind of assess the state of the locker room and just the level in which you feel like you guys have unity?
Yeah, what I can speak for is, kind of what I see day in and day out, and that's guys, committed to this team, committed to each other, working with each other, and, the results on the field aren't what we want, and it's tough, right? Everyone wants to win, players, coaches, fans and whatnot, but, I see guys that are coming together and stringing along great practices that are, getting better each and every day, and, we're heading in the right direction, absolutely, and, we're just, excited being able to keep working.
To follow up on that as well, you're mentioning the results on the field. What do you think, from a fundamental standpoint, how it needs to change to kind of right the ship, get some more unity? Of course, last several games kind of get out of hand. What do you think kind of needs to be corrected to stay competitive?
Yeah, we just need to execute better. Offensively, just being able to sustain drives and just keep playing good football. That's really what it is. That's really what it kind of comes down to, is just the execution standpoint from it. And we just kind of continue with the process and the trajectory that we're on. The results will come. As Coach said, the results take care of themselves, and they absolutely will follow. But we just got to keep getting better, and that's what we're doing.
Back right here.
Brian, how do you keep all the external noise out, and how are you guys thinking for this workout this week?
Yeah, guys don't really pay a ton of attention to it, right? Like we're just focused on getting better. We got practice today, so preparing for practice, being able to prepare to play. So that's just really what everyone's kind of focused on.
Tom?
Tommy Ashley, Inside Carolina. Obviously, you've missed quite a bit of time. Are you in a position you're going to be able to get on the field this week, or what's your status?
Yeah, just working, day in and day out, to be able to get back and, be able to play well. So that's really as much as I can say.
And from your perspective, seeing Chad sort of step up, just sort of speak to his progression since day one.
Unbelievable. For a guy that, play a position he's never played before, especially a position like center, there's so much that goes into it from a, call standpoint, and, it's a little bit different footwork, guys a little bit closer to you on the ball. To see the way that, he's been able to progress as a player, it's truly unbelievable, and it's been incredible to see, and, he's done such a great job. It's awesome seeing him out there.
Brian?
Have you guys met, two questions, have you met at all as players to discuss, what's going on around and say, kind of keep everything inside the team? And then secondly, a sense of what it's like to be coached by Bill Belichick. And we're hearing a lot of stories, but what's your day in and day out like being coached by Bill Belichick?
Yeah, it's pretty cool coming to the building and, with this, not just Coach Belichick, but this whole entire coaching staff, guys who, you see the dedication, you see the hard work, and, you see what they're doing day in, day out, and, it's pretty incredible, and, there's tremendous buy-in from all the guys, and, again, there's, this adversity that we're facing with, not having exactly the results that we want to see, but, we're committed day in, day out to, be able to, play better football and, translate that into wins.
And have you met as players, have you guys talked it out amongst yourselves about, obviously somebody's talking, have you talked it out about yourselves, about how to handle those things inside the locker room, or how to use that to fuel whatever you have the rest of the season?
Yeah, what I can speak to is, just kind of what I see, and again, that's just, guys every day who are committed to each other, and, to see the growth from day one, whether that's, back then here in January, or, getting in here in the summer, and see how guys are kind of getting closer together. It's been tremendous, and, again, some of that, outside noise stuff, it doesn't, really affect, what we do day in and day out. It's just everyone kind of, again, buying in and coming together.
Chris, right beside?
Chris Lee from WRL. I asked Coach the same question. He mentioned that he felt over the bye week and the course of the season that the team has improved, progressed. What are the improvements that you've seen, and how do you expect that to play out on the field this Friday?
Yeah, again, it's an emphasis on fundamentals and execution. Really, those are the two biggest things that will translate to translate to wins. And, it's just a continued emphasis on that, and you're really focusing on getting better as, individual players and as a team. It's, team of teams, right? So, getting better, doing a lot of good on good with the D-line. That's really just kind of what we've been doing.
What are the progressions that you've seen though? Like in what ways is it different from right now than what it was week one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just in terms of a practice standpoint, it's a lot better execution. Again, some of the fundamental stuff with, whether it's offensive line wise, or, punching a pass pro, or getting tighter on double teams. It's the stuff that you kind of continue to work every day, and you can feel the progression a little bit. But, you see kind of practice week one to now, or even the games, and there's a lot of improvement. A lot of stuff to be excited about.
Adam?
Christo, Adam Smith in South Carolina. You played a lot of college football, a lot of winning college football. One of the criticisms that keeps coming up with this staff is the communication aspect of Belichick and Lombardi, that the communication is not good with the players. How would you describe how that is from your end? Is there a communication issue from the top down, do you think?
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's world class. From a standpoint with Coach Belichick, it's, the feedback that he, seeks from everybody, we talk about in all our meetings every single day. The emphasis is on communication, whether that's on the field, off the field, and whatever that is. And, Coach Belichick's and, Mr. Lombardi's, emphasis on, kind of feedback. How can we improve? How can we get better? There's an open line of communication, and, again, everyone's focused on winning, committed to winning, and, that's really what we're looking to keep building on.
Can you compare it and contrast it to what you experienced at Holy Cross in terms of just how much or often you're talking with these guys?
I don't know if you're comparing apples to apples. Really, it's different. Especially having a GM, it's a little bit different than kind of what we're doing at Holy Cross. But with Coach Belichick, like he's always there. I mean, he tells everyone he moved his office down from the 4th floor to the 2nd floor, so that if there's anything that we need, anything that we see, he's there. We meet as captains once a week, and I've never seen anybody so committed to winning where it's like, what can we do better? Like, is there like, how's this, how's that? And the actively seeking feedback from us of what can we do better. I mean, his commitment to winning is unparalleled, and it's extraordinarily impressive, especially coming from a guy like him.
Yeah.
Hey, Christo, this would be your longest trip of the season. What has the staff done to help players adjust to the time difference, and how do you guys maintain your normal routine once you guys arrive on the West Coast?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna, obviously leave a little bit earlier, I'm sure, than what we would usually do. But, at the end of the day, right, it's only an issue if you make it an issue. Ultimately, we'll get adjusted to the time zone, but, there's not really much in terms of, preparation standpoint that's, really gonna move the needle. But, again, Coach Belichick's been in a lot of these games, a lot of these, East Coast to West Coast, and, vice versa games. So, what they got going is, obviously a great deal.
Pat?
Christo, how would you describe kind of the relationship between the Matt Brown era players and the Bill Belichick recruits? I've been told firsthand that there's been a lot of issues there, and maybe some of it's just jealousy, right? But like, as far as how people are treated in playing time. But how would you describe what that relationship is like? What have you seen there, and impact some of those things that are in some ways unavoidable when it's this group versus this group trying to mesh them together?
We're just one team. What I can speak on in terms of that dynamics of the locker room is no one really sees it as that. We just see it as, these are our teammates, these are our brothers. When you go through a lot, and it starts in the summer with all the training that we do. It's not easy. Coach Mo does an unbelievable job of preparation physically and mentally, and the training that we do in the summer is tough, and that's really where we start to kind of build that foundation. And same thing during camp, where it gets to the point where it's just you're just one team, and really it was probably more of an offense and defensive thing during during camp when you're competing every day. But once it hits week one, you're kind of coming together. But the dynamics in the locker room is awesome, right? Because, just seeing how everyone approaches every single day, just seeing the buy-in from everybody. Everyone's close with everybody. You got relationships, O-linemen with corners, and linebackers with wide receivers, and you don't really see that in a lot of places. And I'm blessed to be able to be a part of such a special program with a lot of special people.
Time for one or two more. We're gonna go back right and then back left.
Like for ABC 11, 70 new players, what challenges have there been in trying to get on the same page, just understanding how people play, what the systems look like in such a short period of time?
Yeah, obviously that comes with repetition, that comes with, practice reps, training reps, and, really just, spending time with each other. So the adjustment in terms of that aspect has been, just playing with each other. And, we're heading in a positive direction. We're growing every single day. And, obviously, again, the results will take care of themselves. The leading cause of success is well-managed failure. The leading cause of failure is mismanaged success. So, being able to handle that and, come together as one group and, kind of overcome this adversity it's a great opportunity for everyone on the team and, to be able to do that.
Last one back here.
Sean Gallagher, WRL. You talk about the one team kind of aspect, but Pat has reported on there was a locker room fight. There was an investigation into a coach for essentially embarrassing a player on the field. I mean, as a leader, what kind of pressure do you feel to try to smooth these fractures and really unify a team when there are these reports out there?
Yeah, again, what I can speak on, again, as you kind of alluded to, is what I see, and that's the buy-in that everyone has. And it's being able to be around so many people that are committed to the program, be around so many people that are day in, day out, giving everything they have in practice. It's easy for a lot of guys to just kind of wallow away, and it's okay, we're not playing as well as we want to, but to see guys take it to another level, and that's really kind of what it's all about. And there's so many leaders on this team, Drew, Maury, Will Hardy, Gio, Max, Blast, but there's so many people that give everything they have every single day, and it really just inspires other people. Inspires me to be able to come here and give everything I have.
Perfect. Good stuff. Thanks so much, Christo.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.